I'm gonna go back to the two dots right before this. Klal Amar Rabbi Yeshua. That's a big quote from the Mishnah, which this Gemara is on. Okay. That's really the introduction to this Gemara. It's on page 8, which is Dalet Amud Beis. And there's two dots about 10 lines up.
Got it.
It says Klal Amar Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua gave us a rule. We're talking about Meilah. Having benefit from things that are Kodshei Hashem, things that are consecrated to Hashem. And the problem is that after the sacrifice, after the sacrifice is performed, so then it's not Kodshei Hashem anymore because it becomes permitted for the Kohanim to eat from it. So Rabbi Yeshua gives us a rule about this. He says, Rabbi Yeshua gives a rule. Klal Amar Rabbi Yeshua, Kol sheis l'shaset l'kohanim. Once there was any permissible time for the Kohanim to eat from it, then ein Meilah, then there's no more Meilah. Because it's not Kodshei Hashem. It's for the Kohanim already. But if there was never a time for the Kohanim to eat from it, then there's still Meilah. What does it mean that there's a shaset l'kohanim? So what we're referring to here is that at a certain point it becomes permissible for the Kohanim to eat from it, but then there's still some other psul that takes place, and even though it's pasul, and the Kohanim can't eat from it, but because there was a moment of permissibility, it's already not Kodshei Hashem. So that's really what we're looking for here. So he goes like this. He says, Shalana, let's say I'm going to see exactly if it means the meat or the blood remained overnight. Vishenitmas, or it became tameh. Vishiyatzas, or it went out of the area. So those are things there was a heter for the Kohanim, but then it became pasul for some other reason. What's something that there was never permissibility? If the shchita was done with the wrong thoughts, either or the blood was received by people that were puzzled, and then it goes on and it says, and they sprinkled the blood as well. It's a little bit odd because there's a psul already there in the kiblo. Why do you need two psulim? We have to see what's going on. You need both pasul to make it pasul. Kiblo psulim, zarko astama. One of them should have made it pasul.
Who said they're both at the same time?
Okay, maybe they're two separate cases. Ve zarko astama is or. Okay, let's see. Amalei bar kapar bar padas. Bar Pada. Bar Kapara says to Bar Pada, says, Ben Achaisi, my nephew, Re'ei, says, look at this Mishnah. Take a look at the Mishnah. Mata Shaileni, and see what you can ask. See what you can ask me. And then, L'macha Bebeis HaMedrash, he asked the following thing. Not sure Mata Shaleni L'macha Beis HaMedrash, and he asked the following thing, or Mata Shaleni, and then it takes place in L'macha Beis HaMedrash. How do they translate it in English? There's two ways of reading it. But.
No, he wants him to ask tomorrow. I guess he wants to like Moraheter or teach something in class. He says, "You ask me this question tomorrow." He's writing the script.
Right.
I'm going to
now the words "and then he asked" are missing in the Gemara. They're put in
English. It says,
English,
"I want you to ask."
Okay, now go a drop
it
further.
starts off tomorrow in the study hall. I want you to ask me to clarify what.
Okay, and now does it say "and then he asked"?
When he said, meaning when Yeshua said, this. It just stops there.
No, so go a drop further.
See that you prepare the subject matter well so that we will be able to discuss it in depth tomorrow.
Okay, now one more sentence.
Possibility.
According to this understanding, Mishnah means that soon. No, there is
So
no
it doesn't
more
say that he actually asked.
Meaning that it was
okay, the way the Mefarish puts it, apparently this is not Rashi in Meilah. It looks like Rashi. It's not really Rashi. The way the Mefarish puts it is that he then went ahead and asked him the next day, and his question was like this. His question goes like this: when you said that when Rabbi Yeshua said that there's a shas heter, how heter does he need the heter to be? How far along does it need to be all the way at the end? The way I was translating is that they need to be able to eat it, or here's another option: heter shchita sheninu. Maybe it means once the shchita is done correctly, then there's already a certain level of, there's a heter for the kainim to do the avodah. Not the kainim to, there's a heter for the kainim to do the avodah. And then there's no more Meilah anymore. The kainim could start their work. Oy heter zrika sheninu. Before I translate heter zrika, let me do the next one. Oy heter achila sheninu. Or are we talking about that the kainim can eat the food? That would mean after the zrika. Let's go back and translate the second one. Oy heter zrika sheninu would mean that once the kainim receive the blood, then you're able to do the zrika. Now, what's the point of that? Like, why is there a middle case here? Either the kainim can do the avodah, that's what we're looking for, or the kainim could eat it. Those are the two that are logically the two possibilities here. So where does receiving the blood come in? It's in the middle. So the Mefarish over here explains that there's a possibility that maybe kol ha'imid li zarek k'zarek damim. That maybe once you're able to sprinkle it, it's as if. So really, goes along with the last option as well. That really we're dealing with the heter achila. We're just saying that before the zrika, it's already considered heter achila because kol ha'imid, anything that's eligible to be sprinkled is as if it's sprinkled. That was the opinion of Reb Shimon.
So that's, at the point in time when it's the shechted and it's mutter to the kainim to do the avodah, it doesn't belong to the kainim. I'm just doing the work on behalf of Hashem. Right. It still belongs to Hashem. Kainim can't eat the meat that's throwing on his bear.
No, but we were looking for a point when it would become mutar for the kohanim. So this is the point. They can't eat it yet. But according to what you just said,
you were saying about because he can use it for avodah.
He's asking, why is it not Kadshe Hashem?
Still Kadshe Hashem. Still the avodah is just on behalf of Hashem.
Right.
And can't do whatever avodah they want. It was very specific avodah with very specific parts.
Spoken like a true Kohen.
And once he finishes, he could eat it.
Right, but that's not what the Gemara is asking.
I don't know. Maybe it is.
I don't know. That's his question. That's Parpada's question to him. Does Rabbi Shua mean heter shchita? So you're right. The logic that we're giving for it is Kadshe Hashem would mean that they're able to eat it. Okay. So he goes like this. Chizki Amar. This is very interesting. The Mefarish over here says that Bar Kapara answers back Parpada with the following answer. Chizki Amar heter shchita sheninu, Rabbi Yechon Amar heter achila sheninu. Those two extreme options, not the middle one. Chizkiah says the shchita, and Rabbi Yechanan says the achila. Now the Mefarshim are very disturbed by this Mefarish. The reason being is the chart. Bar Kapara is down here, a student of Rabbi Danasi. Rabbi Yochanan is on the next chart here. So they're very disturbed that how could Bar Kapara respond to Ben Pada and say, oh, it's Rabbi Yochanan, a generation later, that discusses this. So they don't want to learn like the Mefarsh. He's noticing the Mefarsh. The Hishivu Bar Kapara, the Chizk Varbechin Pligi Ba'amel. So you see that? They want to say that, no, it's not Bar Kapara that's doing the talking here. It's just the Gemara that's doing the talking. The Gemara is doing the like some of the Talmud is.
Who is the Mefarish on that?
Mefarish is some probably some collection from. I don't know. Do they quote this as Rashi?
They keep on quoting Mefarish separately.
Mefarish. Yeah, I don't know.
They pull up Mefarish on each thing here.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. This is what's printed here as Rashi. Is always being quoted as the Mefarish. Not every Masechta has the Rashi. I don't know how they know it's not. They know
So here,
the
here,
manuscripts.
here it
It
says
says
from,
Mechune Lo Nodal Ami.
Is this question because the editors knew that these two players never had contact with each other?
No, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, you and I are two different generations. Look at us. We're having a conversation.
Right. So the problem would be is that it wouldn't make sense to say that, oh, that's a discussion between someone of a later generation. If I'd ask you the question and you would respond that it's one of the young people in the yeshiva that have two opinions about this, that would be a little odd. You would respond that it's a previous generation. That would be your response, not the later generation. It's possible. Anyway. Okay. That's the normal way of expecting it. So that also, I think when there's a mefarish, it's not really Rashi. It's much easier to ask questions. It also becomes like a target. Okay. Amar Reb Zera. Reb Zera says we have two opinions here. Okay, we have Chizkiah and we have Rabbi Yochanan. It's either the shchita that takes away the me'ilah or the zrika that takes away the me'ilah. Why does the zrika? Because once the zrika is done, then it could be eaten. It's called heter achila. Reb Zera says, "Lei daika masnisen, like Chizkiah, like Rabbi Yochanan." Our Mishnah doesn't fit with either of them. This is Tanan. It's taught in our Mishnah. Shalana v'shenitmis v'sheyatzis. It says that it was left overnight, it became tamei, or it left the Beis HaMikdash. Those are things that had a shas heter. Lav, it's supposed to be my lav, delon dam. It must be that the blood stayed overnight. Uktani ein mayalim bay. And it says that there's already no me'ilah. Why? Because the blood wasn't sprinkled. Shma mina heter zrika shenino. Why is there no me'ilah? Because it was eligible to be sprinkled. The shchita was done. How did it become pasul? Because the blood stayed overnight. Now, is it possible? It could be. It's still possible. He's not really resolving. It could still be possible that they have the shchita. Once the shchita is done, it's already permissible. But he's assuming that why does he have to make it to the lawn? To the psul of lawn, it must be because someone was there that received the blood, and now it's becoming pasul. So that's your first case of that it's pasul after there's no me'ilah anymore. So we're seeing that receiving the blood takes away the me'ilah. That's the heter for the kayanim. Receiving the blood takes away the me'ilah, and now it becomes pasul because he left the blood overnight. The Gemara says,
they never did zrika.
And they never did zrika. Right. But that's enough. The heter for zrika is enough to take away the me'ilah. Umar says, "Loi, the lon basar. It wasn't the blood. The zrika was done. The psul here is in the meat. Abal dam is darek, and that's exactly Rabbi Yochanan's opinion, that they were dealing with the heter achila. So Reb Zera is saying that the Mishnah is not accurate. That's because he was learning lon on the dam. What do you need? Izdarek means to sprinkle. Zarak. Izdarek is a past tense.
It was done.
Very good. Shiva University.
Let's take a whole course in TikTok.
Has been. Okay. Mishum hachik tani ein ma'ilam bay. That's why it says that there's no me'ilah because the blood has been sprinkled. Tanan, I didn't say bracha yet, right? Okay. It's taught in the Mishnah. Bezu shloi hoysel shas. It's supposed to be shas heter. It says kosher. It's supposed to be heter. Which one? What's the case where there was no heter? And that's the second part of the Mishnah. The first part of the Mishnah was when was there a shas heter? this is Rabbi Shua talking. When is there no shas heter? We said it was slaughtered chutz l'zmana, chutz l'kaima. Let's see. L'kainim shenishchata chutz l'zmana v'chutz l'kaima. The shechita itself was pasul. V'shekiblu psulim v'zarko estama. The psulim, someone that was pasul for the avodah, received the blood and sprinkled the blood. Gemara says, "Hey chidami, what's the case?"
In other words, the shechita was done properly.
Yeah.
But the receiving. So there was, but then there's as.
So if the shechita was done
good, so
the
then,
shechita,
right.
okay, yes, so that would be a problem. So that would be a problem. So this automatically takes away the heter shechita. That's a good point. Automatically takes away the heter shechita. Okay, let's see. Now the Shita Mekabetzes adds in that he adds in the following words when it says Hechidami. He says Ida Kablu Psulim. It's in Zion. If it was received by Psulim, Vizarku Psulim, Lamali. Why does it have to say that Psulim sprinkled it? It's already pasul because they received it, right? Why do I need that extra point? It just takes out the ilema. Just changes it to e. He does kablu psum lamli. Lamali adikatarti. That's what he's saying. Why do I need to have two problems? It's already pasul. Elalav the kablu psulim v'zarku ksherim. It must be that it was received by psulim, but ksherim sprinkled it. That doesn't make it any more kosher. We're just saying that it was pasul already before, even if we're editing it, even if zarku ksherim, it's already pasul. Uktani. Oh, I have to add in a whole piece over here. B'taima. I'm going to the svarim, to the other svarim that's quoted in the Shita Mekabetzes. And the reason why there's no Meilah here, there still is Meilah here, because it was always pasul. It never became permitted. The Kiblu Psulim Zarko Ksherim. It's only because I'm going into the Ches and the Shita Mekabetzes. It's only because if it was pasul right away, Ha Kiblu Ksherim. But let's say the blood was received by people that were kosher. Zarku Psulim Ein Mayalim. Shma Mina. We see from here that there's Rika Shanino. What we're doing is we're making a diak. We said you definitely don't need both Kabbalah and Zrika to be pasul, because the Kabbalah being pasul is enough. That being the case, let's be medayik. If the Kabbalah pasul is enough, and the Zrika was done by kosher, so we say there still is Meilah, because it was never permitted, because the Kabbalah was done, b'psul, this receiving of the blood was done in an invalid way. So let's be medayik. That's when there still is Meilah. But let's do it the other way. Let's say the Kabbalah was done by Ksherim, and the Zrika was done by Psulim. We have a diak here. Then we'd say there's no Meilah. Shma Mina, we see from this, that receiving the blood by Ksherim makes it eligible for the Zrika, and it's already no Meilah. So Shma Mina, we see from this, that had to Zrika Shanino, that just permitting it to be sprinkled, and this doesn't go like this again, like Rabbi. You follow? We adjusted. You see, we're doing something that's not exactly fair. That's why it's like a little disturbing. We said the Mishnah says that if you still have, if it doesn't become permitted yet, because it was something that was done b'psul, we're dealing with the carbon that's kachim. So it belongs to God. And if anyone makes use of it, that's considered Meilah. So what we're saying is that once it becomes eligible for the Kayanim to do something with, either Avodah or to eat it, then it's not Kachi Hashem anymore, and there's no more Meilah. So we said, but if it becomes pasul before it becomes eligible for the Kayanim, then it retains its status of Meilah, and you can't have benefit from it. If you do, then it's a violation of Meilah. So what's an example of that? So we said, if the blood is received by someone that's pasul, and it's sprinkled by someone that's pasul, so then it still has its Meilah because it was done b'psul. It never became eligible for the Kayanim. The Gemara asks, it was already pasul when it was received. Why do you have to then say that it was sprinkled b'psul? So the Gemara says, okay, you're right. We don't have to say that. What we're going to say is, that it was received bipsul and it was sprinkled kosher. That's when it was never permissible to the Kohen. It was already puzzled by the receiving of the blood, catching it. The Gemara says, okay, now that we've adjusted it, now let's be medayik. Why is it there's still me'ilah here? Because it was received bipsul. Let's do it the other way. Let's say that it was received kosher, but it was sprinkled bipsul. Then there's going to be no me'ilah. Okay, now that there's no me'ilah when it's received by a kosher, why? Because it must be that when Rabbi Yeshua was talking about a heter for the Kayanim, he's talking about heter zrika. Since it was at that point when it was received, it was eligible to be sprinkled. Now, what that happens now is it tells us that the heter that Rabbi Yeshua was talking about is not Chizkiah or Rabbi Yeshua. Is that the end of Reb Zera? Maybe that's the end of Reb Zera. Maybe that's the end of Reb Zera's statement. Because Reb Zera tried to say is that in the Reisha, we ended up, he's correct in the Seifa. Maybe it was all Reb Zera's. Okay, Maskefla Reb Yosef. Reb Yosef, sounds like Reb Yosef is asking Reb Zera this question. If it enters your mind that you can make a diak like that, and you could say that the reason why it's puzzle is because the reason why there's still me'ilah was because it was received bipsul, and then it was sprinkled by a kasher. But if it was received by a kasher and sprinkled by a puzzle, then there'll be no me'ilah. You can't. He says, you think you can make a diak like that? We're going to quote another Mishnah that's similar, that's going to mess up that diak. We're not going to be able to say the same thing. Haditanan was taught in the Mishnah. Haditanan Hasan was taught in the Mishnah over there. Zvachim. Chatas psula, ein damatan kibas. Chatas that's puzzle. It says that if the blood sprinkles on a garment of the chatas, you have to wash the garment. But if the chatas is puzzle, then you don't have to wash the garment. Ben shaisla shasa kaisha v'nefsala ben shleisas. Ben shaisla shasa kaisha v'nefsala ben shleisla shasa kaisha v'nefsala. Whether there was a eligible time of this puzzle carbon or whether there was no eligible time, you don't have to wash the garment. Ezui shaisla shasa kaisha v'nefsala. What's an example? What's the test? And then it's okay. What's an example of where it didn't have eligibility? And what's an example? No, I'm sorry. So what's an example that it had an eligible moment? Shalana, Vishanitma, Aishiyatza. Those had an eligible moment. It stayed overnight. The blood became tamei, or it left the Beis HaMikdash.
You took for granted that Shalon is blood enough.
Yeah, because here I'm dealing with the blood. I can't get out of that. I think in the other one we were talking
because it's
about
specifically saying about the
soul
blood, the blood on the garment.
Yeah, the other one we were talking about someone did me'ilah. And it was probably being me'ilah from the meat, I assume. I don't know.
Also, Rashi says so.
Really? Oh, you have a Rashi in Zvachim. They say Rashi in Zvachim. Okay, fine.
Lan demeha.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's good because. Oh, so that's an issue here, because Bayas, the Mefarish.
Because here it says Lan Hadam Abbas.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem. Do they quote the Mefarish here saying the Basar?
It might have been in another spot.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay, that it throws you. I mean, it's going to take a commentary to explain that out. That's going to take. Okay. What's a moment? What's a carbon that never had a eligibility? Same story. The blood was received by psulim, and the blood was sprinkled. Now, hechidami, the kiblu psulim v'zarka psulim. What's the case that the blood was received by psulim and it was sprinkled by psulim? It's a very familiar sort of discussion. We say, hu de'in damatan kibas. I'm missing words over here. Let's just read it. That's when the blood doesn't need to be washed off. Ha kiblua ksherim. Mefarish does it like this. If kiblu ksherim v'zarku psulim, but if it would have been received by kosher people to receive it and sprinkled by non-kosher, or the opposite, then damaton kibus, then that would be an eligible sacrifice.
If it's what again? It's eligible.
The blood is received
By
kosher, but sprinkled not by non-kosher, by psulim. Now we have a problem. The problem is, if we're going to accept that, the real issue here is something else. The only time the blood needs to be washed off a garment is before the blood was sprinkled, not after it's sprinkled. So the Gemara says that how can you make a distinction here? If the blood was received by ksherim or the blood was received by psulim, all of that doesn't matter. It's once it's after the zrika, it never needs to be washed. And before the zrika, it doesn't need to be washed. Ela lav dafka. Rather, when it says that kiblu psulim v'zarka psulim, that's a lav dafka statement. The main point is that the blood was sprinkled. Hachinami lav dafka. So we take it back to us in Meilah when we had the exact same list of things that were puzzled, and we tried to make a diak out of it. We're saying that you can't make any diak. Don't be medayik that if it would have been received by kosher and sprinkled by puzzle, that would the Meilah would go off already. Don't make that diak, because we see over here that you can't distinguish. The main point over here is that the blood was sprinkled, even by ksherim. If the blood's sprinkled, it's still no good. It still doesn't need to be washed. Bein zarka kosher, bein zarka pasal. So what does it mean? Kiblu psulim v'zarka psulim. It says the whole thing is lav dafka. Even if it's kiblu ksherim v'zarka ksherim, you don't need to wash it off. So once it's lav dafka, then that means you can't be medayak about it. So what's our point over here? So when does the Meilah go off? If it's not by the zrika,
It's only by the shchita.
yeah, either by the shchita or by the achila. Wait,
Okay, yeah, well,
by the achila. Okay. Amar Ravasi. Ravasi says, "Imkein lamali lemisni tarti." If you have two mishnayos here, that both of them are lav dafka, you're not going to make a diak out of any of them. Why are you saying this twice? We have to say that by Meilah, when it says it was received by psulim, that has to be accurate, precise, that it needs to be received by psulim. But if it would be received by ksherim, then we would say that it's already eligible and there's no more Meilah. We would say hetizrika, the middle thing would have done it. And this by the chatas psula. What is that telling me? That's teaching me the psula shirayim, that even though it's pasul, the blood that remains is considered shirayim. What is shirayim? It said it's not considered blood anymore. The blood that remains is not considered eligible to sprinkle. So, for example, like this. Let's say the blood is received by someone that's pasul. So it's finished. That's not counted.
And
anymore.
he does rika.
But there's still a little bit of blood left in the neck that someone kosher could come along and get from. So we say no. The whole thing is shirayim. That's what we're learning from this. You can't go back. You can't go back. You've already messed it up. There's no. Once the Kabbalah is done, even by a puzzle, psul is shirayim. Because I could say different. I could say, well, some of it's built on the floor. Let someone eligible go and catch the blood. but we don't say that. We say no, it's too late.
Can you imagine you're the chasana and they're about to do Kabbalah's panim, and then another guy runs and does Kabbalah's panim and goes up to the chutz for the other guy's panim. You can't do it. She says, no, I wanted her.
It's like somebody pouring something into a mold and he already spilled it all over and ruined it. But somebody else now, hey, let me do it better, even though it's a little. It's
too late.
already ruined. What do you?
It's too late.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna see exactly what type of puzzle we're dealing with. It's not so simple. What type of puzzle we're dealing with? We'll see soon.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm really quite confused. Let me say what I think is the general claw that we've learned up until now. There are steps that a proper carbon has to go through. There are 4 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
Shkita, Kabbalah, Alicha, and Zerika. Right?
Right.
And each one of them has to be done in a proper way by a proper person in the
Right.
right time and the right place. And if any one of those steps is not meet all the requirements, then physically it may go on, but it's no longer really eligible to go
Right.
on, right?
Right.
And if it is not done correct, then it's no longer eligible to go on, and there is the Meilah issue, right? Is that a correct statement?
Possibly. It depends. We're the heter for when Rabbi Yeshua says that there's heter for Kayanim.